want to get this guy in there.
This is the guy.
They beat Notre Dame. At that moment, Toby Gerhart is the national hero, and Jim Harbaugh, in the contractually obligated post-game interview, says, "Don't talk to me, talk to him," and grabs Toby Gerhart, throws him in front of the camera.
He deserves the Heisman Trophy, that's what I say.
What case did he make for the Heisman tonight?
I thought he made it tonight. Talk to him.
I want voters to listen to what Brent Musburger just said. You've called a lot of games, and you just said you don't know if you've seen maybe a better individual performance than what you just witnessed in his final game to put an exclamation point on an unbelievable season for Toby Gerhart. If that doesn't get the voters' attention, I don't know what will.
His legendary performance against Notre Dame earned Toby Gerhart a trip to the Heisman Trophy presentation in New York City. Unfortunately, the award was just out of reach for Gerhart. In the closest vote in the history of the Heisman Trophy, Alabama's Mark Ingram won by only 28 votes.
You know, the Heisman is interesting. There's no formula to winning a Heisman Trophy. Every year is different, and I've heard people say it a bunch. If the vote happened after that Notre Dame game, he probably would have won it, possibly by a landslide.
And looking back on it, you look back on that season, he should have won the Heisman. He was the best player in college football that year. He should have won.
There's not a single thing I could ask for to go differently in the past couple of years. Maybe win the Heisman instead of, we get a couple more votes, but.
Oh, absolutely. I think that was highway robbery. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, how do you measure Heisman? Do you want statistics? Because he probably should have won it there. Do you want what he meant to his team? Because he probably should have won it for that. What else do you measure it? As an individual talent, he probably should have won it for that. I don't know how else you measure the Heisman, but I think any way you look at it, Toby Gerhart should have won that Heisman.
We came in at the hard times. There's 1-11. You come in wanting to make a difference. That's one reason why I came here. And 4 years later, here we are, 8-4, going to the Sun Bowl, playing Oklahoma. Got to go to New York City, Heisman runner-up, All-American. It's been an unbelievable experience. It's been a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and there's no way I would have rather have it turn out.
A season-ending injury to quarterback Andrew Luck, followed by a 31-27 loss to Oklahoma in the Sun Bowl, dampened the end of the Cardinals' season. But regardless, it was clear that Stanford football was back.
Oh, I think the 2009 season is huge. 3 huge wins. The what's your deal game against USC. The big home win against Oregon. And then to beat Notre Dame on the national stage, have a Heisman runner-up. That was proof on an individual and team end that this team was going places.
That season, I think, established what this program was going to be about. That we were not going to be close anymore. We were not going to be almost a good football team anymore.
And for Toby Gerhart, a man who had gone through a 1-11 season as a freshman, everything had finally come full circle.
Being most proud of turning the football program around. Looking back, when I'm older and saying, I was part of that team that built the foundation for Stanford football to reestablish, its greatness. And that's something, we'll always remember and always be able to share together.
A 205-yard night. A night that Stanford will never forget.
gorgeous night here on the farm, and the spotlight on a big showdown here on the last weekend of August feels like it should be played in December. That's because of the history and pedigree and the rankings of the programs. Top 10 showdown here between Stanford and Florida coming up on Pac-12 Networks. Hi there, Jason Knapp here. So glad to have you with us alongside two-time Olympic gold medalist and World Cup veteran for Team USA, Allie Wagner. And Allie, these two teams, you know, it's got a playoff type of feel here early in the season.
It does, and the weather does too, right? But it's not postseason, and neither of these teams are in postseason shape, if you will. They're using this game as a measuring stick, a barometer to see where they're at. In particular, both coaches addressed their back line. They weren't tested in their opening weekend, and they're looking to see what this other team can slice and dice through them so they can address those needs going forward.
And again, both teams picked up relatively easy victories in both of their games. For Stanford, they were both on the road. For Florida, both at home. And now these two teams meeting here at Stanford tonight. Again, both fixtures in the top 25 year in, year out. Something else these teams have in common, two dynamic forces in different spots of the field. Let's start for Stanford and Andy Sullivan.
Yeah, Andy Sullivan is one of those special players, and all her coaches say she is one of the most complete players they've ever coached. It's very rare in soccer to find someone who is equally good offensively as they are defensively, and we don't just say, oh, she destroys the attack for the opponent. No. When she breaks up play, she keeps possession and launches that transition, that counterattack for her team. Offensively, equally good at just spraying the ball around the park, sensing the tempo and the rhythm. And Savannah Jordan for Florida, different player. She plays up top. This girl is a goal scorer. It doesn't matter where she's playing. She comes in as a freshman, scores 22 goals, ranks 3rd nationally, or if she's with the youth national teams, U20 team, she scores 5 goals in 5 games in World Cup qualifying, scores 3 goals in 3 games with the U23 team just this season earlier. So this player is dynamic.
So certainly it's a great early season test for both. Pair of unbeatens, pair of top 10 teams. 3rd ranked Stanford, 6th ranked Florida. Lineups and the first kick coming up. This Pac-12 women's soccer game is brought to you by State Farm. Here to help life go right. That normally on an August evening might be nice to take a dip in the fountain, but a little chill in the air tonight. Becky Burley got to be a little different from the squad for Gainesville. Here's her starting unit. We talked about the dominant performance up front for Savannah Jordan. Gabby Seiler was an all-SEC performer at Georgia, sat out last year as a transfer and looking to be an impact player for the Gators here in her first season with Florida. And for Paul Radcliffe, 15th season at the helm. Team rolling to another Pac-12 title last year. His squad, a lot of veterans back, 8 starters return. Big key outside back position. Stephanie Amack still out with a knee issue. That's one of those outside back spots. Both of them kind of in flux at this moment. So we'll see how it progresses in the back half of the doubleheader. National Championship men's team kicking off play with a scoreless draw against Penn State, looking for more action. And the goalies hoping to keep things tight. Jane Campbell, the top-notch veteran for Stanford, and Kaylin Marquise, rising sophomore from St. Petersburg, Florida, goes for the Gators. Stanford in the Cardinal tops, white shorts, and the Gators in the blue with the orange and white lettering and trim. And we are underway here from Kagan Stadium. And both of these teams convincing wins last week in Florida at home, both in Gainesville. 5-2 over Iowa State and 3-0 against Florida Atlantic. And for Stanford, road wins 2-1 at Navy and a 3-0 shutout at Georgetown. Paul Radcliffe saying we're a little tight against Navy, didn't really find some rhythm, but settled in against Georgetown, thought his team created a better environment. We'll see if that can translate here.
Well, that so often happens with teams when they're inserting about 3 freshmen into that starting lineup and just trying to find that chemistry, those partnerships, and see how things play out. You never know how freshmen are going to come in and play on this big stage.
Certainly impact freshman for Stanford last year. You see the battle on the edge. Megan Turner, a senior from Danville, California, battling for the Cardinal. And again, another great recruiting class for the Cardinal coming in, looking to make an immediate impact. Settled here by the Gators. And looking to build up the middle. It's deflected out of play.
And I love this early on. You know, it's what, 2 minutes into the match, but there's only 3 players staying back for Stanford. It's because they know Florida plays with 1 up top, and you can just absorb that with those 3 players and push everyone else high. They're pressing, trying to keep Florida in, not letting them build out.
And Becky Burley and Paul Radcliffe, both of these veteran head coaches, liking the test that this game will bring, and understanding that they dominated possession in their wins last weekend. Certainly going to be more back and forth in this one. Near midfield, Cardinal looking to settle. And Maddie Bauer, trusty senior at a modern day in California. Well, Ceci G with a touch.
You touched on it a little bit, Jason, and it's interesting when coaches say that they are not going to adjust for the opponent. That tells you a lot about the confidence they have in the group and their personnel. And both these coaches said, yeah, we're going to pay heed to some of their special players, but we don't plan on changing a thing. We want to use it as a measuring stick and see how we stack up toe-to-toe.
Opportunity for Sam Tran, freshman from Tracy, California, ranging forward, has an assist so far in her first 2 collegiate games. Now back for Tierna Davidson, another of the newcomers. Check it. That's Alana Cook with a touch and turned over. Bauer going forward, looking for Carusa, and it's blasted back. Tegan McGrady, sophomore from San Jose, and trying to find some unity with new pieces on the back line. And for both of these teams, not really tested in those games last week, so this is a game you're going to get tested, no doubt, especially for the Cardinal D, with a player with a goal-scoring prowess of Savannah Jordan lurking at every moment.
Oh yeah, you would absolutely expect this back line of Stanford to be tested by her, but there, you see in the midfield, Andy Sullivan has to be responsible for cutting out those passes into her. That's the one way you keep Savannah Jordan at bay. But the back line surely will be tested, and oftentimes when you're inserting new players into those roles, the back line, it's a very difficult thing to create a cohesive unit right out of the gates. You know, it's something that takes time that you have to build upon.
Clearance for Florida from Kristen Cardano. And for Becky Burley and the Gators, they're trying to adjust to 3 newcomers in the back 4. Trying to get that group working together as one. On the edge, Jordan looking to get a touch. It'll be a Florida throw-in. There's a look at the veteran leader for Florida. 22nd season at the helm of the program. Won it all back in 1998. 27 seasons overall. Over 450 total wins. 3rd in Division I for active coaches. Not only in wins, but winning percentage. 77% success rate. That'll put you in position to do a lot of good things. And the SEC titles, 14 of them in that reign for Becky Burleigh.
And it was interesting when we spoke with her how she said, look, players want to come to our program that are the playmaker styles because we play a pretty brand of soccer. And that's why she keeps getting these quality players in, and she's able to maintain that winning way historically in their program. Doesn't help when you have an Abby Wambach or Danielle Fotopoulos as a list of alumni as well.
Bauer surveying, head up, slipping it forward. Flag is up. Carusa had contact with one of the Gator defenders. That's Erica Nelson, grad student, transfer from Maryland, playing her final season of eligibility for Florida, and again a newcomer on that back line for the Gators. Intercepted. Sullivan, her junior season continuing to grow by leaps and bounds, and now we'll work it back and get dropped.
And she's a player, Andy Sullivan, who had 5 goals, 2 assists last season. And already in their matches this past weekend, the opening games, she already matched that total of assists with 2 assists. So this is her junior year. That's usually when players step out of that shell and really start to dominate. That's what I expect to see out of her this year. And she is someone that I have my eye on and the hopes that Jill Ellis brings into the fold with the U.S. full team.
And Paul Radcliffe, too, and we talk with him. A couple of things. Number one is when you've got a player that talented like Andy Sullivan, you see her, the junior from Lorton, Virginia. How do you continue to develop her skills? He said as a player, individually working on her shot, working on her restarts, but also more of a leadership role, and not just for herself, but really getting everybody involved and being that guiding force in the center of the park.
Well, that's one of the reasons she is so special as well. Is yes, she can lead by example as great players often do, but she's a vocal leader. And lead by example as great players often do, but she's a vocal leader and someone that the team really looks up to and will actually buy into what she's saying because they see her do exact same things that she's preaching to them.
Davidson with a touch. And now G, freshman from Orinda, California. Tran, another of that talented first-year players for the Cardinal, fouled, and free kick coming up. That's Bigic, who's from Slovenia.
And early on here, you know, when we spoke with Becky Burleigh, she was saying how she wanted to see how her team played out of pressure that they were expecting from Stanford. And I'm seeing they're a little bit slow in their speed of thought, in their connecting of their passes and moving it about the pitch. Stanford is doing an excellent job of getting numbers around the ball, swarming, nicking it away, getting 1 or 2 players to clean it up.
Sullivan with the read. Steele, shot from distance, over top of the net.
And that's a perfect example of why Andy Sullivan is an exciting player in the U.S. program. Yes, she's one of their defensive holding mid-type players, but here she picks up that ball and just drives through the hole. She's athletic, she's fast, she's got great touch, but great awareness that that was the moment to penetrate and look for her own shot.
See position there on that graphic that says midfielder. Get the sense from Paul Radcliffe. You could really open that up and put X. It could be anything. You could put her on the front line. You could put her in that back 4. She could do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and that's because she is so complete. I mean, just technically, her awareness, her ability on the field, but athletically, she's very gifted as well. So that means you can slide into a wing spot where you have to be pacey. It means you could play in the back line where you got to be physical and tough.
He said it'd be fun, too, if she does get that look from the full national team. Where does she fit into that puzzle? Again, you see players, depending on needs and space, Where do you go? Where do you fit in? That'll be a fascinating piece as her career continues to progress. Again, from Virginia, latched on to the Cardinal early. Paul Radcliffe says sometimes a player from the East Coast decides they want to come to Stanford. They haven't kind of thought it through, maybe get a little homesick with all the travel that Andy Sullivan's done with those youth national teams growing up. That was never a factor at all. Falling in love here at the farm and being a big factor. Header flicked by Tran. Time for G. Sarah Chercoli looking to turn it up front for Jordan, who's been relatively quiet with Stanford, controlling the flow thus far. Ball to the near side. Julia Lester, top freshman for Florida along the back line, has it picked off. That was Bauer who stepped in the passing lane, and now Nelson will play it back for Marquise. Little over 10 minutes in, scoreless here. One of the better games you'll see in the nation in women's soccer this weekend. Number 3 and number 6 going toe-to-toe. The Gators and the Cardinals scoreless to this point. Player down for Florida, and free kick coming up.
You know, it's interesting. It might be a revolving door situation. I've been waiting to see a little bit further, but it looks as though Andy Sullivan is playing in a more advanced position. It looks like she's playing more of an attacking mid as opposed to when she plays in that 6 role in the defensive slot. And you said it, Paul Radcliffe said she can play anywhere on the pitch, just a matter of where she's needed most.
Opportunity, Ceci G on the break. Lost it, and the whistle coming up. Again, Cecilia her first name, but everybody calls her Ceci. And the freshman helping induce that foul.
And she's a player who started her career in club playing forward and midfield and comes to Stanford, and policies value her in her potentially at this outside back position where they are trying to find those role players.
Marquise trying to direct traffic. Here's Sullivan, lethal on restarts. High ball, maybe a touch too deep. Trouble though for Marquise, and fortunate to just parry it out of the way. Who was ticketed for the far post. No Cardinal teammate able to run onto it.
Yeah, and I think she just mishit that because there's no way that's a shot on goal. She just mishits that, but Marquise has to back up and makes a nice play on it because you don't expect anyone to put one on frame from that distance. Usually trying to whip that in, have a player run onto it.
Sophomore keeper at the ready, and guess what? Sullivan will get another crack, this time on the corner. In swinger for the right-footed player. From the 6, headed out. Secondary ball from McGrady is blocked by the Gators, and that may have gone in the face of one of the Gator players. That's Myra Palaio trying to gather herself. Not the face, how about the arm?
Definitely the arm, but that's what you're trained to do on those set pieces. You fire out to the ball, you sacrifice yourself, or you make that player take a touch so then the second defender can come and clean it up.
Sophomore from West Palm Beach, and the first goal of the season for the Gators, and did that for the 2nd year in a row, started the scoring for Becky Burley's team. Out of play, 14th minute, still holding on to that right arm. Scoreless draw to this point between the Gators and the Cardinals. Joust to the far side. Gators looking to switch it up. Bigich cutting inside. Sullivan retreating. Pass gets by her. Ball to the outside, deflected away. Maggie Doherty-Howard trying to influence things. So too, Gabby Seiler. Tricoli plays it wide. Jordan making a run, but the pass not there.
And Savannah Jordan hasn't had any great service early on, but I'm liking what I'm seeing out of her runs. Just very good timing, her ability to get on that shoulder and get the defender off guard with her timing of that movement.
Well, when you've scored 65 career goals in your first 3 seasons, something that only 14 players in NCAA history have done in their first 3 years, you're going to have the ability to know when to go and where to go and how to put it home.
And she's probably had some very talented midfielders playing that ball into those spaces for her.
She talked about it as well, especially with this team and what she saw in the preseason and also in the opening 2 games. A lot of variety with those midfielders and how they can put her in the best position to score. We'll see if that plays out here in this one. Caruso. Nice ball work. Sullivan into space. Cross. Off the hop. Loose. Marquise has it. There's more of an attacking role for Sullivan again, but look at the quick retreat back on D immediately.
Well, that pattern right there for Stanford is an imprint that they're going to want to repeat time and time again. And that's finding Caruso high. She's very good back to pressure, laying it off, finding her teammates running through. In that case, Andy Sullivan, great awareness to realize that someone had to recreate that width. She goes, excellent opportunity.
Jordan off a loose ball. Tricoli will lay it back for Cardano. Going wide for Sarah Wilson and can't control. Sophomore from Herndon, Virginia. McGrady on the throw-in. Jordan will lay it back. And the Gators trying to find their way through this Stanford D. Cardinal controlled the run of play here. First 15+ minutes. Gators a little bit better effort in the last 3 or 4 minutes.
It's been just a frantic start, I would say, for both sides.
Cross for Tran. Step up defensively for the freshman Lester. Tricoli played it wide. Seiler looking to settle on the near side. Bigich in support. Bigich going inside. Little give and go. Seiler. No space to release a shot. Bigich will try. Chipped on, but nobody surging towards the goal, and Jane Campbell be able to play it with her feet.
And that attack for Florida, it looks decent enough, but Bigich needs to bend that run so much wider. I mean, there's a ton of space not being utilized by Florida on the flanks when they do in fact win possession. That was a casing point. Everything stayed very narrow, allowed Stanford to keep their numbers tight and really not concede any space. Bigich ends up taking just a meaningless shot from way outside.
Good little work here for Davidson. Freshman from Menlo Park, left-footed shot, and that one just scoots wide. Again, impact players right away for the freshman.
And it's a similar look from Andy Sullivan's penetrating run. That's their defensive mid, their freshman, Tierna Davidson. High aspirations for this player. She's very technical, good vision, but you can see there, I mean, no fear. Has a lot of confidence, takes on and looks for her own shot. And a decent one at that. Keeps it low on the ground, just not on frame, obviously.
And last year for Paul Radcliffe, 5 freshmen started playing large roles early on in the season. All 5 were part of the all Pac-12 freshman team. Shot there is wide. And you get the sense right away when you're talking about players like Davidson and G and Tran, first-year players getting some time here as they continue to work out who's going to play when in the early portion of the season.
It's an embarrassment of riches, it seems, every year. They just have this influx of talent that sometimes replaces the talent they're raving about the previous year. It's impressive. But I guess when you can recruit to a school like Stanford, it's got to be a little bit easier, I would say, than some schools down the road.
19-2-2 last year, unbeaten in the Pac-12, 10 wins, just the one draw, made it to the NCAA quarterfinal round, at least for the 7th time in 8 years, for bowing out to Duke on penalty kicks. Caruso, ball scooted over the head of Nelson, but Cardano alertly back. And the boot from Marquise. Jordan. Bauer tracking her. That'll be a common theme, it seems, for the night for the center backs, Cook and Bauer for Stanford. Infraction here. Free kick coming up. Caruso will advance forward. See if Sullivan takes it. Right now, Bauer coming up to play it.
And that's smart. I like that they kicked that wide there.
Tran with a head on it, but angled wide.
Because you want to get it out wide where you can have a better angle of service for players to run onto. The center of the park from that distance in, it's sometimes an awkward ball to serve into the box.
Goal kick coming up for Marquise. Talking about freshmen for Stanford. How about just overall numbers for Florida? There were 39 players on the roster, Allie.
Blown away.
24 making this trip, but Becky Burley talking about the support they get. Clearly a lot of walk-ons, in-state players certainly that can come to Florida, but what it can do for the depth of your program. And Becky Burley talking about the ability to have meaningful training sessions on what would normally be recovery days for a lot of her top-line players.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's different schools of thought on that. I think it would be hard to manage 39 personalities, 39 players with aspirations when only 11 play. This isn't football, you know, and I think it would be difficult, but she likes it. She likes it for a program. She sees the benefit to it. I just think as a head coach, it would be very challenging.
Talked about having to be organized and making sure you're on top of things, but the ability for a lot of those players that are developing to get maybe some individual instruction, some more practice time as well. And you think about where Florida plays too, even deep into that season, the heat and humidity going to be a factor. Have additional bodies certainly doesn't hurt the cause. 23rd minute, still scoreless here at Stanford. Bigich out wide. Darty Howard already has a couple of goals on the season. Jordan poaching and whistles there.
Such a good run by Jordan. I like that ball in. And one of the things Becky Burley said was Savannah Jordan is not afraid to put her body on the line. Look at her slide in here. And Jane Campbell has to come for that, has to go to ground. That is a dangerous, dangerous play by Jordan, but both players strong in their challenge. I like seeing that.
At first glance, looked like a seemingly harmless ball, but the ability and the speed of Jordan and the fearlessness to go after it. And it's something that Becky Burley talked about. Turnover. Darty Howard working back for Pelayo and intercepted. Davidson got the turnover, but the Cardinal give it right back. Pelayo will crank off the bar and over. Well, Jane Campbell was kind of casual about that. She must know the angle pretty well because it hit the bar.
No, this catches her off guard. She thinks that's flying over. She thinks she's got it covered, and I think that you can see her body language after the fact that that was it was a little closer than she anticipated. But on the previous play with Florida, I mean, they force a turnover high in their end, but because they only play with one player up top, they had no options and they can't make anything of it. I mean, when you win the ball that high on the field, you should be able to at least get a shot on frame, and there just were no numbers to be seen to slip someone in.
Doherty Howard made the quick decision. And again, Jordan not able to get there in time as Campbell ranged out. Still a couple of chances for the Gators in the last few trips down the field. Time for Seiler. Sullivan picks it and gives it back.
And Bigich on this left flank for Florida, she needs to get her heels closer to the touch line. There's so much space over here, and they have the ability to ping it that amount of distance.
Going for Jordan, hops back to Tricoli. Her ball out wide, goes to a player wearing Cardinal. Caruso off the feet from Sullivan, weaves back inside and drops it back off for the junior. Cook scored the first goal of the season for Stanford off a corner on a header on their road trip to Navy. Cardinal got another one in that game before conceding one late. The mids pressing, but Stanford able to hold on for the 2-1 win, and then taking it right at Georgetown in D.C. on the Sunday game to round out the weekend. 3-0 the final. Subs coming on for Florida. Samantha Chung enters. Bigich will get a rest. And Seiler looks to be the other, check it, it's Palaio, the other player that's exiting for the moment. Goal kick Gators. Doherty Howard. Cardano. That's blown up by the Cardinal. Oh, the other big statistic for Stanford on those 2 wins for last week, always good early season when you've got newcomers, the team bonding. So trip out to the East Coast, cruise around Annapolis, get a good look at the harbor and the beautiful Naval Academy, and also trip to the Lincoln Memorial, all part of the DC excursion. Always good to do something else besides soccer on your trips around the globe, around the States.
It is, and personally speaking, I know that I didn't take advantage of those moments enough. You know, you're so focused on soccer, you're thinking, I need to rest my legs for my match the next day, or what's best for my body, and you sometimes take for granted that you're in these unique, amazing places, and you don't go out and see what they have to offer. So I love that Paul Ratcliffe is taking his team out and making them see the world, because, you know, soccer only lasts so long in your life.
But again, classes here on the farm don't start for number of weeks, and this team, that's the only road trip bonding time they're going to have for quite a while. This is the first of 9 straight home games for Stanford. They don't have to leave the state until October 14th. Paul Ratcliffe saying it's certainly unusual. He would prefer to have it more balanced, but the way it worked out, he did the non-conference schedule, got the Pac-12 schedule, and there's a bunch of home games coming up in this stretch. They'll have to travel a little bit more the latter portion of the season, but right now trying to make the best of home cooking. Sullivan slotting it for G. That's knocked out by Chung.
And you could see just in that build-up, in that play, Andy Sullivan is really dictating to her teammates. She wanted Maddie Bauer to chew up that space, dribble up, and get some of those players to commit to her, to open things up, change passing lanes, because Stanford is being so hesitant with their entry pass. And then once Sullivan got the ball, she's looking to probe, and when it's not on, spinning out, maintaining possession. All very good decisions from her.
Avery Collins, who had 3 goals last year, will come in to spell Tran, and Brianna Solis will get her first time, sophomore out of University High School in Orlando. 29th minute. Still looking for our first goal of the night. Second game. Stanford men scoreless draw as they open defense of their NCAA championship tonight against Penn State. Right now, top 10 tilt here between number 6 Florida, 3rd ranked Stanford, scoreless so far as well. Counter opportunity. Jordan, ball gets played through. Too much heat on it, goes back to Campbell.
Well, that's good defending by Stanford, just staying with Jordan. They know that's where Florida ultimately wants to serve the ball. They dropped when they sensed there was no pressure on it, but Florida's got to do a better job of maintaining possession. Clearly it wasn't going to be on, so play sideways. Allow your teammates to get up into the attack and join in that attacking third.
Cardinal player is down, and now the whistle. And that's the freshman Davidson. Again, big collision with Kit Lefersky, freshman from Jacksonville, Florida, who's come on. Both players up and at it. Paul Radcliffe talking about getting his freshman acclimated to that Stanford style, and he gave some praise to Davidson, saying she's kind of fit in the midfield right away for his Cardinal program.
Well, she's got a great sense as a player, and so when you're a freshman and you're a smart player, it's easier to step in and play this style that Stanford loves to play. So of course she's going to be one of those integral pieces to this puzzle for them. It's just now a matter of getting her on the ball more. I want to see what she can do. They're not finding their Stanford is not finding their midfield often enough right now.
Turnover. Jordan DiBiase. Sullivan under pressure from Solis. Cook. Cardinal control. G. DiBiase for Caruso, looking to turn the corner. And the freshman Lester trying to escort that one out of bounds, and it'll get there. You were talking about all these freshmen. Do you remember freshman year? It wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
But just trying to integrate yourself, especially at a successful program, and you come in, you've been successful everywhere else you've probably played. What's that process like for these first-year players?
I mean, it was exciting. I loved it. It was one of those things where you just have to have confidence, believe in yourself, and you find your role. It's sometimes when coaches recruit you, here's the thing. When coaches recruit you, they tell you you're everything under the sun and more, and you're going to be this X, Y, and Z. And then you come in and you realize you're coming into an established program with all these players around you that are more talented or more seasoned with the team, and you've got to earn your stripes and get in there. So you just go out and put your head down and try to grind it out, perform, and earn respect of your teammates and the coaches. And so it's very different how you think it's going to be when you come in and then how it actually is once you step on the field.
So Marquise getting ready for the corner, and a player that fit in right away continues to excel, the junior Andy Sullivan. Ready to flight another dangerous ball towards the box, towards the far post. Over the reach of Bauer. And Florida will watch that go out for the goal kick.
For all the talk we heard from the coaches about how, for Florida, all their 5 midfielders are playmakers. They all are capable of opening up the game. For Stanford, we know they've got all these attacking talents. They're not putting it together right now in that final third.
Collins looking to find assistance back. And the Gators pound it off of Megan Turner and get the throw in. Good early season measuring stick for these two programs. last met 2 years ago, and they met twice. Florida paid a couple of visits to Stanford as more subs are ready to come on for the Cardinals. When they met here in the regular season 2 years ago, they were ranked 4th and 6th. And Lo LaBonta converted a PK for a 1-0 win. B.D. Goad, the freshman from Australia, will come in to spell Caruso. That was the only goal in that 1-0 win. Then they met again in the NCAA quarterfinal. 2-2 tie. Cardinal won on penalty kicks to advance to the College Cup. And the player that scored the winning PK? How about your goalkeeper, Jane Campbell? Thrilling moment in Cardinal history. Opportunity out wide. Davidson. And that's blown up by Lester. Just about 35 minutes in. Looking for a score here. Lester gets it by Turner. Jordan tracking back. Bauer draped all over her to midfield. Doherty Howard slides it wide. And Jordan, 3 Cardinal defenders all over her when that centering ball came.
And that ball that was just served to her is the ball that I'm talking about. You know, they've advanced. They did a nice job spinning out, maintaining possession, getting numbers forward. There's no reason to serve that ball to her. She's got 2 defenders on her. What is she going to do with that ball, even if she is able to bring it down? You know, it's just not the right decision. And that's, again, it's early in the season, but that's where players have to make better decisions on the ball.
And again, for her, in the early portion of the season, again against 2 foes that they controlled, won both games by 3-goal margins. Jordan not only able to finish, but set up teammates as well. 8 goals on the season for Florida, 5 assists, and Jordan has 4 of the assists in addition to 2 of the 8 goals so far this year. Diagonal ball goes through the box. McGrady in the corner. Little duel, flags up. And the call going to go against Florida. Melanie Monteagudo thinking it should have gone her way, but that's not the case.
And that's a situation where if you've got Stanford pinned in their own defensive corner, no need to foul there. No need to be overly aggressive. Yes, you want to keep them back to goal if you can, but don't foul. They have to make them play out of that. They're in a dangerous position for themselves. This is where you can win the ball high on the field.
Bauer up the middle for DiBiase. Maddie Bauer and Campbell among the senior leaders for this group. Doherty Howard trying to link with Lester, backtracking under duress. Collins fouled.
And that was just a straight out frustration foul by Doherty Howard. As a senior player, she's got to know better there and try to keep her cool. She had players back ready to defend on that.
And the shirt grab quite evident. That'll get you a yellow. So the caution to the second team all SEC performer from last year. Sullivan at the ready on another free kick. Swerving ball. Clean header out for Florida. Second chance. Marquise able to snare it.
And that's just good goalkeeping by Marquise coming out for that ball. Florida did a nice job on the initial set piece, clearing it, trying to push Stanford out, but that resurface made them drop and collapse on Marquise.
Intercept on the clearance, and Marquise fortunate to get that back.
And you can see how confident she is coming off her line. No fear there. She owns her box.
Here's the run from Seiler, trying to link with her former club soccer teammate, Savannah Jordan, and the connection not made. Another sub coming on for the Cardinal. McGrady will get a breather here. And it's another freshman, Logan Karam, from Long Beach. And one of those players going to see some time at outside back. And don't forget, Sports Report update coming up at half. Kate Harrison will be along. Top 25 showdown, UCLA and Texas. Check on the Wildcats as well against Texas Tech. That's all coming up here shortly when we reach halftime. Karam watching that one roll out. Florida, it's the first of 6 straight on the road for the Gators, and they will be at UCLA coming up this weekend. Turner trying to chip it back for Davidson. Monteagudo. Jordan on another run, and Campbell racing out.
And that's good reading by Jane Campbell. She knows with Jordan, she's always looking to get him behind. She's got to be ready to pounce off that line for any of those through passes.
Hey, we're talking about matchups here early in the season. This is as good as you'll get. 2 top 6 teams. Good results last night in the Pac-12. Washington State took down 13th ranked Santa Clara 1-0 at home in Pullman.
That pains me. That pains me.
I noticed that look of chagrin.
It's early.
Fine Santa Clara alum alongside. And then Washington bounced back from a road loss at Portland last weekend, got a rugged road triumph at Tennessee. Now the Huskies have to shoot all the way back to Seattle to host Santa Clara coming up on Sunday afternoon. But it's never too early to start looking at the big picture, and getting these big wins against other power conference schools, especially early in the season, says a lot about how it's going to shake out when we get to NCAA tournament time.
Right, and because of RPI rankings, that all factors in, correct?
Absolutely.
And in terms of players, it's just about getting that confidence and knowing as a unit, you know, what you're capable of. And when you start to get those wins early in a season, sometimes it's a steamroller and you want to be aboard that train.
And 6 Pac-12 teams to the tournament last year. Record 9 teams in 2014 to the national tournament. And scoreless here between 2 fixtures in the NCAA postseason, Florida and Stanford. Free kick Gators. Loose in the box, opportunity, and the low shot. Jordan did not get a lot on it, and right to Campbell.
And Stanford's lucky there.
Turned over again. Doherty Howard, centering ball. Jordan laid it off. Solis can't get there in time, and steered away by Karam.
And this is so much better from Florida. There have been a couple instances where they've put a few players higher to press, and they're winning the ball high on the field. Now they've got 3 players up there to take advantage of it. It doesn't come off, but that pressure and that transition moment is much better from Florida.
With numbers up, can Stanford work on a counter? Sullivan with some sick ball skills to keep it alive, and the Cardinal play it wide. That's Goad. In from Melbourne, Australia, Paul Radcliffe finding her, said he saw her on video, fell in love. First member of her family to attend college in the United States. Saw some good work from her in the opening 2 games of the season at Navy and Georgetown last weekend. Final 2 minutes and change here, opening half. There's a look at Beatty Goad.
For Florida, you know, I just want to see them utilize their width more, change the point of attack. They're getting stuck on one side. They're not solving the numbers that Stanford is sending to the ball defensively. And then press higher. Don't allow Stanford to play out of the back. Get a few numbers forward, pressing them, spying them, so they do have to play long and can't play through their midfield. And then for Stanford, I think they're doing a good job of possessing the ball, but they're being a little too conservative at times. When they do have transition moments, they're not taking advantage of it. When they have their numbers up, they're allowing Florida to get back, get numbers condensed, and making it difficult on them to break them down in the final third.
Approaching the final minute here, opening half. Gators working center of the field. Seiler intercepted. Goad with the takeaway. Outside for Collins. Tipped out by Cardano. And they say off of Stanford, so Gator throw it. Almost the intercept for Turner. Just over her outstretched leg. And the Gators here with about 20 seconds left. Jordan looking to turn into space. 10 seconds in the opening half. Low shot. Campbell smothers. And she'll just hang on till time expires. 45 minutes in the books. Andy Sullivan and Stanford matched up against high-scoring Savannah Jordan, and no goals so far here. Cardinal and Gators deadlocked in a scoreless draw to this point. What you might expect from two teams looking for a little measuring stick here so far, kind of feeling each other out?
No, I'm surprised. In fact, I thought that because both coaches were a little suspect of how their defenses were going to handle the potent players offensively of both sides respectively, I thought we'd see some attacking presence. I thought we'd see some goals, and I am shocked at how poor it's been in the final third, but it's early, and I'd like to see a little more aggressive mentality out of Florida coming into the second half.
That's what Allie Wagner thinks. Let's see what Paul Radcliffe has to think. Coach, how about your thoughts here in the opening 45 minutes?
Yeah, possession hasn't been great. I think we need to find a rhythm and settle in a little bit. It seems like everyone's a little tight, and there's a lot of emotion in the match right now, so we need to start playing some better soccer, I think.
And Paul, as far as it looks like you guys are trying to pick up Florida high more often than not, are you finding success in that? Any plans to change that coming into the second half?
Yeah, I think you know, it's more us playing out of the back is my concern right now. We need to do a better job, but at times we've given them problems when they're trying to play out of the back. And we've had a couple opportunities. We just, you know, our first touch wasn't great. But yeah, we're going to keep doing what we're doing and see if we can settle in and get a rhythm going and play some more possession.
Paul, thanks for the time.
Thanks, you guys.
Paul Radcliffe, head coach of Stanford, his team looking to make it 3 wins in 3 games, scoreless so far against Florida. Don't forget, Pac-12 halftime update coming up. Kate Harrison just around the break here. And scoreless, our story in Stanford.
Good evening and welcome into our San Francisco studios. I'm Kate Harrison with your sports report update. Stanford and Florida battling it out at the farm. Still scoreless though, but we'll get you back out for second half shortly. For now though, let's go to College Station for a top 15 matchup. 15th ranked UCLA and number 11 Texas A&M. Pick it up in the second half, no score. Tegan Micah makes a diving save for UCLA. Game remains scoreless. Later in the second half, it's Chloe Castaneda fires a shot for the goal, her first goal of her career. UCLA goes on the board. Late second half, another chance here for Annie Alvarado. Daniel Rice makes a save, but UCLA gets the upset on the road. Meanwhile, Arizona on the road as well, taking on number 16 Texas Tech. 28th minute, no score, bit of a miscommunication on defense as Paige Crouch gets the loose ball and scores her first goal of the season as Arizona takes a 1-0 lead. 76th minute game, all tied up at 1. Arizona throw-in and Callie Chrysler puts it in for the goal, picking up her second goal of the season as we go to the 89th minute. Same score, it's Rebecca O'Brien launches a long-range shot, finds its way in. Game ends in a 2-2 tie. Let's go to Eugene. Kat Mertz in Oregon hosting Nebraska in the Ducks home opener today. First meeting all time between both programs. 21st minute, no score. Ducks on the free kick. Kira Fawcett with the shot on goal, but Aubrey Corder with the save. Game still scoreless. 64th minute, same score until this. Ducks with a perfect pass up to Bailey Bruner. She finds Abby Morrow for the goal. Morrow picking up her first goal of the season to put the Ducks on the board. 88th minute, same score, but the Huskers looking to equalize. Caitlin Carter says not so fast, makes a diving save. Oregon grabs its first win over Big Ten school in program history. Number 11 Stanford taking on San Diego tonight in their season home opener. First set, Stanford up 24-22. Moretta Lutz and Adriana Fitzmaurice come up with a huge block. Stanford takes the first 25-22. Second set, Stanford up 16-11. It's Catherine Plummer who gets that one. Stanford goes on to win the second 25-19. Third set, this time USD takes the third. Now we're in the fourth. While your Pac-12 champs are getting ready for the second half, let's talk about the Olympic champs who hail from the farm. I've got all that coming up for you on the Sports Report Update as we roll on.
This Pac-12 women's soccer game is brought to you by State Farm, here to help life go right. Second half about to begin here at Stanford, scoreless between the Gators and the Cardinal. Becky Burley, head coach of Florida, joining us. All right, Coach, you were worried to see your defense was going to get tested maybe for the first time this year. How do you think they handled themselves first 45?
I think pretty well. I think, initially we had to weather a little bit of their pressure, but I think once we settled into the game, we started to kind of get them off balance a little bit as well.
And you talked about using it as a measuring stick. Give me what your sense is with this team offensively.
Well, I think that we might need to press them a little bit more in the second half. I think when we did that, we sort of caught them off guard, and I think that's something we can do a little bit more of and see if we can try and get some transition on them. I also think that we just got to be a little bit more patient in the final third.
Becky, thanks.
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 There is Savannah Jordan of Florida. 24 goals last year, led the SEC, second in the nation, and only able to generate one shot. As you look at some of the pictures here from the first half, a lot of skill, a lot of scrappiness for these teams too.
Yeah, I mean, they're feisty. They know that this match means something, 3 against 6, and you're seeing some, I mean, these are silly fouls, in fact, that we're showing, but because there wasn't a lot of offense generated, that was one opportunity Florida created. Good run by Jordan in behind that back line, and this one, Jane Campbell just did not know where she was on the field and was lucky to see that one over. And this was an opportunity by Florida, and they won the ball high on the field, tried to take advantage of that transition, but just didn't quite come off.
State Farm, get to a better state. Highlights leading to our first half stats. Fairly even. Handful of shots on goal. 3 saves combined for the 2 keepers. Second half underway. And team switch ends. Cardinal in their home colors. Gators in the blue. And we begin. So the coach's comments sounded pretty familiar to me. Sounded a lot like what you were talking about in the first half, Allie. Adjustments here. Becky Burley talking about that pressure. If you're Paul Radcliffe, you saw a lot of that late. How do you counter that?
Well, I think he'll be wondering if she makes that adjustment, and astutely she's going to, and you can see it right away. They're pressing that back line immediately, and that's because these players on the back line for Stanford, especially in those outside back positions, are turning the ball. Here, Carusa, who can hold the ball up and allow those midfielders to run off of her, but you'd like to see them, send numbers to the ball so they can, in fact, play out of that pressure. But it takes confidence, and it takes time to develop that sort of chemistry to play out of it.
Again, coach talking about questionable first touches for his defenders out of the back, plagues them again. Here's the restart. Pelayo sends it in, and Campbell quickly plays it. Rachel Smith coming on. See some time here for the Gators to begin this second half. It's interesting, talked about these teams playing again in the regular season for the second time in 3 years. Both coaches certainly esteemed some of the best at their position. And Paul Radcliffe said, look, you see Florida year in, year out, near the top of the standings. You see the centering ball from McGrady, headed on, just missed the net. Now the Cardinal go wide and get their best opportunity in the game.
And that's one of the first times we've seen Stanford use that flank space, drive end line, and serve a good ball across. That's Tegan McGrady flying, and look at that run into the box. That's a great ball. She attacks it. That barely misses. Looks to be Jordan DiBiase who goes up for that one. Good awareness by the Florida defender. She didn't pick her up early, but she did get something on her to disrupt that header.
Bidding for her second goal here and 3rd game of the season for the Cardinal. Just to tidy up our thought on the coaches, Paul Radcliffe said about Becky Burley, I consider her one of the top coaches in the country. When I see a program year in and year out near the top, it speaks volume for their coaching ability and their character. Certainly you could probably say the same here for Stanford as well. In both these programs, the winner of the Pac-12 title last year for the Cardinal and for the Gators, they swept the regular season and tournament title as well. And again, both deep runs in the NCAA tournament. Seiler. Lester. She's done some nice things from her outside back spot.
And neither team really used the side of the field that is closest to us, the side that is closest to the camera right now in that first half. And you can see already that the play is coming over to our side now again. That's right side dominant for Florida, left side dominant for Stanford.
Again, we saw Lester a bunch at left back in the opening half. She's now shifted to right back. And again, it's Rachel Smith who's moved over to left back now for the Gators. And Becky Burley working on combinations in her back four too. Smith with a step up, throw in Stanford.
I'm good, thanks, man. That one saved me. I feel good.
Opening handful of minutes here, second half. And we mentioned Florida going to get tested as well on this road trip. Second leg, hook up with UCLA. Ball played back for Campbell. How about in the SEC with the scheduling somewhat unbalanced? Gators don't play Texas A&M in the regular season, so did the next best thing. And they hooked up in an exhibition match with one of their SEC rivals who's not on the regular docket. 2-1 win for Florida. Also beat USF squad in Tampa. Little hostile environment there. Another 2-1 win in the preseason for this Gator group. Sullivan, the win. Smith intercepting. Sending it forward. And Campbell wasted out of bounds.
I mean, to this point in the game, and it's always subject to change, but to this point in the game, Florida's looked much more dangerous in those transition moments. Stanford is not taking advantage of them. They don't look like they want to go to goal immediately the way Florida does.
Service, Campbell retreating. In between a shot and a pass for Lester, and Campbell made the adjustment.
And this is one of those situations where Campbell's cheating off her line a little bit and is lucky to just backpedal and pick that one off.
Campbell sliding it wide for Bauer. Trouble again for the Cardinal D. Knocked out, but again, pressure on the back four. And again, some jittery touches.
And you can see Stanford's trying to have a big, expansive shape across that back line when they do have possession. But if Florida keeps pressing the way they are, they might want to change that.
Tricoli gets it back from Seiler. Bigich in the mix. Sullivan trying to win it. Tricoli's shot well high. Third on the team in goals last year for Florida. Sophomore from Michigan had to go.
And that ball played into Sullivan is not the right decision. If they are going to play her, they've got to play her other foot. Play the opposite side of where the defender is. That's easy for Tricoli to pick that off and doesn't take a good shot on that interception.
Entering the 53rd minute here, scoreless between Stanford and Florida. Jason Knapp, two-time Olympic gold medalist, World Cup stalwart for the United States. Allie Wagner, glad to have you along here. Second part of this soccer double dip from the farm. Reigning NCAA champs, the Stanford men, kicking things off Penn State. And like this game, that one too, looking for a goal, ended in a scoreless draw. Sullivan for Turner. McGrady under pressure from Seiler and lost it. DiBiase lost possession. Bigich gave it back. Steele Davidson will take a crack. Deflection, second chance, left-footed shot low, steered away, foot save for Marquise. Stanford off the second ball had an opportunity, and the Gators sophomore netminder with a sparkling save.
Well, that was a much better transition taken by Stanford to drive and take up that space that was afforded to that freshman, but not the best decision on the initial shot. Nonetheless, she follows it up, gets the rebound. A good shot with that left foot, obviously her preferred foot. And here's just a look at it. She's way outside the 18. You're 4v4 there. The problem with that transition moment right there for Stanford was that the runs were way too straight. No one made a slicing, dicing run across that back line to open things up. That's easy to defend, and then just the decision to take that shot from outside the 18, not the best one. Nonetheless, she does get the rebound.
Stanford's D setting up, free kick after the handball from Cook, about 35 yards away from goal. Lester had it, lost it. Counter chance, McGrady. Looking to blow by the defense. And that's easily taken away by Cardano. Redshirt junior out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Jenks High School.
And you get a look at McGrady's pace there. She ran the 200 and the 400 in high school, and you can see she's pulling away from the defenders with the ball.
Cutting inside. Cross about 15 yards out. Nelson sends it back towards midfield. Sullivan working for Cook. Bauer. Take away Gators. And Seiler couldn't turn the right way to accept the pass. It's Doherty Howard doing a lot of the grunt work for Florida. Cut down is DiBiase. Foul on Florida.
And so many times you're seeing Andy Sullivan spin out of pressure, maintain possession, and not play a penetrating pass. And I'm watching the movement of the front three of the other attacking mid, and it's pretty stagnant. Not a lot of dynamic movement that is, you know, opening up options and passing lanes for her to play it into.
Free kick, Sullivan. Chipped up. Loose in the box. Finally pinging out. Sullivan will start it again. Cranks the shot. Cook. Trying to find a runner. Comes down to DiBiase, who fell. Doherty Howard plays it up wide. Throw-in coming up for the Gators. Now clock stop, little conversation here. Remember, Doherty Howard already has the lone yellow in the game. And a little chat with our referee. And that's satisfied with the position of the restart. Back underway again. Promising maneuver for Stanford. And Smith watches Carusa dance on the end line and save it. And the cross ricocheting out. That was crafty.
And that's good work from her. Just dispossesses, doesn't foul, wins the ball. And here she is, keeps it in bounds. That's exactly what Florida doesn't want. And that's her working the end line again.
Yeah, went out this time before Carusa was able to slide it in. 5 goals, 6 assists last year for her. including the game-winning goal versus UCLA to clinch the Pac-12 title for the Cardinal.
I'd like to see Stanford utilize the flanks more. They're not getting it wide. They're not getting around those outside backs and turning them. Everything has been funneled very centrally, very direct. And if you're not going to have great mobility up top, you got to get around the edges, get those outside backs forward, let them overlap, recreate the width.
See how the Cardinal attack in this sequence. Through ball. Tran running onto it, but never able to beat the D.
And that is such a better run by Tran, right? She's coming across that back line. That's what allows Andy Sullivan to slip that in. She gets to pick which backs that she chooses, what channel she slips that through for Tran to run onto, because it's just a matter of timing at that point.
And the freshman went into space, couldn't get an angle to elude last line of the defense and put something on net. McGrady. Bit of a misheader for Nelson. Trapped by a teammate. Now Seiler. Davidson back for Cook. Turnover. Doherty Howard pounds that off a Cardinal player. Florida throw it.
And again, just picking the wrong foot. Cook picked the wrong foot to play that into Davidson. She had reestablished her position and was in a good angle to receive it, but just the wrong side to play it to.
Biggich chipping it forward. 30 minutes left now in regulation. Scoreless between number 3 and number 6 in the country in game number 3 of the 2016 campaign for both. Davidson, smart. Sullivan wide, McGrady. Hand up, fakes the cross, give and go. Step over, punched out, and a Stanford throw it.
And all this opened up by Davidson, right? Her ability to beat that first defender, have the awareness to help change the point of attack after that penetrating pass. Just very well done. Gets it to this flanked space. And this is where Stanford's having success on this left side, getting it wide. They're getting the attacking third out here.
Chung will come in to spell Biggich. And I thought it was a Stanford throw. So too did McGrady, but referee did not agree. Florida has it. McGrady ends up with it. Maybe in her mind a little justice. Chung, who just came on. Sullivan omnipresent as usual, always around the ball. Jordan plays it back. Seiler got crunched. That was Ceci G in the collision with the redshirt junior, and sat out as a transfer last year for Florida, and then had a sports hernia in the offseason to deal with, a nasty injury, but looks to be at full fitness now here in the fall. Off the free kick, overshot it, Campbell there. 31 career shutouts for the Stanford senior, including one last weekend at Georgetown. School record is 35. Nicole Barnhart holds that mark. But certainly the way Stanford plays defense, that record is in jeopardy this season.
And you'd have to think she's a player that's got to be on Jill Ellis's watch list over the next 3 years for the World Cup Olympic cycle.
Cut back, Doherty Howard. Seiler cuts inside. She'll have a crack pulled it wide. Seiler, Doherty, Howard done a lot of good work for Florida tonight. How do you think Stanford's done in holding Jordan in check here?
You know, I think they've done a fine job. I think they've absorbed her runs very well, but I also think she hasn't had a lot of service. She hasn't had a lot of opportunities to show what she can do as that front playmaker, goal scorer. And so it's hard to really assess fully how good this back line has been at shutting her down. You know, I'd like to see more service.
Florida certainly trying to get player that was second in the nation in goals last year some more opportunities on net. Doherty, Howard trying to feather it over top of the defense, but a little short on that. Stanford plays it up for Carusa.
And to be fair with regards to Savannah Jordan, oftentimes when you have a player like her, the thing you do try to focus on is prevent service. So in fact, you might want to give more credit to the midfield, to that front three who is really stifling any service into her. And it's just a little bit of poor final passing.
Again, the numbers are eye-popping. 65 career goals and 2 in her first 2 games. Nothing so far tonight. And clearly telling that on the scoreboard. Marquise, tough first touch, gave it up. Open net for Stanford. And the shot deflected back. A nightmare scenario for Florida, and Stanford couldn't finish. Cardano may have saved the day.
And here, just good pressure by Carusa. Marquise is scrambling back, and that's very well done just to delay that shot by the Florida defender, allowing Marquise to get back into position, ultimately make the save.
And credit Erica Nelson, again, graduate student, transfer from Maryland, able to help get in the way, partially deflected the shot too. Marquise got a piece, and it stays out. Well, Stanford's been victimized by some sloppy touches in the back, and that one almost costly for the Gators.
And that's why I can't figure out why both sides aren't pressing more. You're seeing a lot of shakiness, a lot of nervousness at the back for both sides, you know, and a lot of success in winning or more success in creating chances by winning the ball higher on the field. Why not roll the dice a bit? I understand why perhaps Florida on the road doesn't as much as Stanford at home, but you'd think both sides want to get the victory.
Tricoli. Lester. Been creative in her role tonight. Chung turns it inside. Tried to flick it on through, but found Cook.
And that's good hold-up play by Carusa to bring that down, just connect her pass. And now you can see Stanford sending more numbers forward.
Cook will work back for Campbell. Bauer trying to direct some traffic. Again, Stanford trying to go down the middle. Turner stymied. Carusa now. Receiving in traffic. No whistle. Ball played forward for Jordan. Bauer going to win the race and not mess around and play it out. And the senior barking out instructions to teammates. Yet always aware of where the 3-time All-America scoring star for Florida is. Excellent defense. McGrady, another clean theft. But Stanford gives it up near midfield. Florida on the prowl again.
And that was good defense by Stanford on Lester, but she had no one, and I say no one, coming to her to be an option. She's isolated. She was, in fact, 1 against 2 Stanford Red in her own attacking third.
Sub here for Stanford. Tran will come out. And for the Gators as well, Solis will return to give Tricoli a spell. '69th minute. Searching for a goal here. Both teams looking to move 3-0. Second weekend of the campaign. Slid down the side. Avery Collins is just checked back in. Deflection, low shot. Marquis stretches out, and the rebound cleared. Gator keepers had to be on her game. Handful of times here, second half. And again, that's a player for Florida that just came back onto the field in the preseason. Shoulder surgery in the offseason. Didn't get cleared till right before the start of the campaign. Becky Burley talking about her kind of able to watch from the sideline in the spring. But her game back into form. Turner trying to turn it and has it blocked away. "20 minutes left. Feel the intensity turned up a little. Two teams desperate to put one through. Collins, centering ball. Got past. Sullivan saves it. And now smashed out.
And just a good spell of pressure right here from Stanford. Again, they were being so dangerous when they're getting on that end line and serving the box. Only one runner in the box on that initial cross in.
Seiler leaves for Florida. Monteagudo returns. And for Stanford, sub as well as Turner gets a breather, and Michelle Schau, sophomore from Omaha, Nebraska, gets some action. Has it right now. She has one of the 5 Cardinal goal already on the campaign. Stanford wanted a handball in the box. Not called. Monteagudo trying to link forward, and Bauer with the step up.
And Davidson has been so good for Stanford in the center of the park. It's hard to believe she's only a freshman. She's out there. She's very confident. I mean, this little ball wide, knows she's putting it into space where only her player can get to it. Little decisions like that, very simple, opening things up for Stanford.
Just had a feel for the Stanford mindset right from the get-go, according to Coach Radcliffe, and that's been evident here in the home opener for the Cardinal.
And she's a taller player, but she's very fluid in her movement. She's able to cover ground. I mean, I'm watching her, and she gets to things that I don't think she's going to get to.
Tricoli returning. Palaio gets a breather. Becky Burley still working with her unit. Throw in here for McGrady. And the left-footed cross attempt thwarted by Chung. Her dad, Mark, 10 seasons in MLS, 24 caps for the U.S. national team. Davidson. Bauer. And McGrady can't get to the pass attempt from Cook. Off the little mini turnover. Collins will take a crack. And tracked by Marquise.
And I'm just not sure why Stanford is taking all these outside shots. Why not take another player on? Why not kick it wide again, get around that end line and serve the box? You know, those are gifts to Florida when you're in the attacking third.
And the best chance besides the crossing ball was on the deflected second shot, which was able to drop inside the 18 and was rocketed by Davidson off the double deflection, kept out by Marquise.
But look, if you're Florida and you're playing Stanford and you were told they're going to take 9 of their 10 shots from the edge of the 18, you'd say, thank you, we'll take that.
Lester. Forced out by McGrady, corner Florida. Campbell commanding the defense. And Lester. Low squibber on the corner. And McGrady.
And with her pace, she should just hold on to that and go herself.
Thought maybe she would try to scream down and find support, but just pounded it to midfield. Florida has it back. Monteagudo. Centering ball. Campbell lost it. Loose. And steered out by the D. Frenetic time for the Cardinal inside the 18.
And that is a nice bending ball. She sees Savannah Jordan making that near post run. I'm not entirely sure if Savannah Jordan's able to score from that angle. She's way past the near post, but that's the right service. If I'm Savannah Jordan, I maybe try to let that go through my legs, feign like I'm gonna get it. But that's a good attack by Florida, and Campbell spills that. She hasn't had the cleanest of games.
Florida issues defensively. Cardano trying to have support back, but turned over. Shao would have liked to have done better. Campbell restarted from the back.
And here's where you want to see some of your big personality players, your Andy Sullivan, your Savannah Jordan. You want to see one of those players step up and take over this game. It's 0-0. It's early in the season. You need those personalities to make a statement. And it may well be a freshman in Tierna Davidson who makes the difference.
77th minute. Cardinal and Gators still scoreless. Solis, the rare field player to don the number 0. Shao trying to go outside, and Lester's been very impressive. Steady player for the Gators on the night.
And that might be one of the answers that Becky Burley's looking for in that back line.
Again, 3 of the 4 in that group are new. And again, for Stanford, talked about Paul Radcliffe trying to work some combination at outside back. Stephanie Amack, talented performer, senior from Pleasanton, California. Missed last weekend with a knee issue, unavailable tonight as well. No clear timetable on her return. Certainly that'll help fortify the Cardinal D whenever a player of her leadership abilities can come back.
And I think not only the defensive responsibility or ability that she can bring, the Cardinals are lacking those outside backs get into the attack.
DiBiase on the prowl. Collins jumped over it and couldn't get it. She says last touch by Florida. She's correct. Corner coming up. So the sophomore for Bozeman, Montana, with a run that looked dangerous and leads to the corner. Marquise trying to position her defenders. Sullivan, the trigger. Marquise right in the right spot.
Yes, Sullivan's going to want to pull that out about 3 or 4 yards. That's real easy for Marquise to pick up.
Collins for Shao. Chung. Jordan tried to lay it back. DiBiase out wide. Carusa has it smothered. That was Rachel Smith denying that, but a corner coming up.
And here's Carusa just trying to go 1v1, opts to go the outside. But that's Rachel Smith. I mean, she does a nice job keeping her feet moving, doesn't get beat. Good challenge.
So Sullivan ready to tee up another one. Outswinger this time. To the 12. Curling away, headed out. Second ball popped up, could be dangerous. Marquise looked like it was going wide, but she still controls.
And I'd like to see Indy Sullivan whip those balls in on her set pieces. Paul Ratcliffe talked about how she's been working on them. I think she needs to just try to get more driven balls in there instead of such balls that are flighted. I mean, they're hard to finish. It's hard to get any power on them, and it's easier for a goalkeeper to come up and pick them out of the sky.
Shot total was close after one half. Stanford has stretched it out with 9 attempts here in the second half. See a bevy of changes coming up. Pelayo, Seiler among those returning for the Gators.
And let's not forget it. It's about midnight for these Gators, if you take into account Eastern time right now. Traveling across the country, it's never easy.
Monteagudo. Step over work for Pelayo. Trying to speed down the side. Sullivan came over to neutralize that. But the throw in for the Gators. Eight minutes left to go in regulation. Seiler turns. Campbell on the move. Pac-12 goalie of the year hasn't had to do a ton tonight. But again, always aware with Savannah Jordan lurking. Late whistle, free kick coming up for the Cardinals.
And she's had some shaky moments. I mean, that ball that went off the crossbar in the first half, and then the one that she spilled on the ball driven across the floor. those are things that I'm sure she's going to look back on some tape and review.
Flick on. Chow couldn't get there in time. Distribution from Marquise. Seiler tried to toe it wide. McGrady can't link with Chow.
And Chow was doing the right thing, but she needed to pull her run even wider. I mean, she's got to sprint and get an angle for McGrady because that ball's up in the air. It's not easy to necessarily handle and make a clean pass of. Just give your teammates a quick early angle. And that's what I'd like to see out of both teams, really, is just earlier movement that is more decisive. You know, sprint there. Don't just jog there. Get there quickly. Shape your body up. It makes the next play so much easier.
Second ball played deeper in the Cardinal end. Caruso not able to control. Sullivan fouled. First team All-America for the Cardinal. Going to be integral to what Stanford achieves this season. Restart into the 18, flicked on, but again, nobody there after the flick.
Right, and those are things as well that chemistry that you develop on set pieces as you go along. You know who should be going up to challenge for that first ball, and you know if you're one of the smaller players, you've got to be running in behind for that second ball. Those are just little details that you wonder if they've been able to address this early in a season. But as a soccer player, those are instincts you'd hope that you have.
Seiler try to touch it forward. Jordan couldn't get there. Shaky clearance from Campbell.
And I know Florida wants to play Savannah Jordan in all day long, and I would too if I was an attacking mid. But sometimes when she's posted up like that, not making a movement one way or the other, find her feet, get it off of her again, allow her to rerun then, and pull that defense apart through that second movement.
Right now, Florida kind of single-minded, trying to advance it, get their star the opportunity to put up a marker here and run out of Kagan Stadium with a road win. Sky ball. Seiler. Back from Jordan. Doherty Howard. Monteagudo. She'll take a crack. '87th minute. Final 3:30 coming up here of regulation. We're still scoreless. Couple of overtime sessions await first goal wins if we get to that point. Essentially, this deep in regulation, first goal might win too. Chow onside. Cross out of the reach of Marquise. Stanford throw. And the Gator goalie kind of misplayed it, but nobody there to make her pay.
She didn't. She'd been so good all game long on balls out of the air. But Stanford's success getting it on the flank spaces, driving in line, serving the box.
Edge of the 18. Caruso running out of space. Tricoli plays it back. Forward for Jordan. Lester, run off by Shao, but Lester gets it back into the box. And the Cardinal swarm of defenders not allowing Jordan to get a touch. Now the intercept. McGrady inside DiBiase. Counter threat for Stanford. Carusa. Contact with Smith. Corner coming up.
And I've been saying all game long, use that flank space, use the width, pull wide, get it wide, serve the box. That was an instance where no one was central. There was not one player making a run in the center of the park. And that's where you would want it.
Quick corner from Sullivan with less than 90 seconds left. Now the shot from distance, offline. McGrady gave it a ride. Marquise ready for the goal kick here. Approaching the final minute. Tricoli laying it forward. Jordan trying to run onto it. Bauer breaks it up, taken down outside the 18. And the call going against Florida.
And this was Florida's chance. That final pass just bending away from Jordan. If there was no bend on that ball, just chipped over, Jordan runs onto that. Maddie Bauer doesn't have the path to it, but she recovers well.
Under 20 seconds left to go in regulation. Chow, centering ball. Loose. Sullivan needs to save. Chipped back. Marquise snares it. Couple of crazy maneuvers here at the end of regulation, and that'll do it. 90 minutes in the books. And for the second game of the night here at Kagan Stadium, scoreless headed to overtime. Well, Radcliffe, the Cardinal women, hoping to do what the Stanford men couldn't do, and that's find a goal against Becky Burley and the Gators. Penn State men and Stanford men ended scoreless. This one looking for a goal. So we get ready for overtime. Coming up here, Gators and the Cardinal. Bonus soccer on the way from Stanford. work to do for senior Jane Campbell and Stanford here in the home opener, scoreless against the Florida Gators, ready for the start of the first overtime. Jason Allie Wagner here. Look at the numbers. Again, the shot total ramped up for Stanford in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely created more opportunities in the second half. A lot of those shots, however, were taken outside the box, weren't the best opportunities. I mean, you see shots on goal, that's where it gets tighter. That's where you see better quality chances. But I think overall, Stanford did have the better opportunities, you know, coming out of that 45-minute period. And now in the overtime situation, it's just about your personality players stepping up. I mean, I talked about it in the second half. It's early in the season. Sometimes it just takes one player to say, listen, I've got this. I'm going to take someone on. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make a selfless run. I am going to do the extra work that you are not willing to do as the player opposite me, and I'm going to win this game for us.
Speaking of extra work, Mike Am, Ashley Adamston, they're on standby, ready to go after us with another edition of Pac-12 Sports Report. That's coming up after the game on Pac-12 Network. Paul Radcliffe ready to go, his team in action here in overtime. Again, put 10 minutes on the clock. If we get a goal, it's over. If it's still scoreless, teams will switch ends. 10 more minutes. No goal, we ended a scoreless draw. If we get a goal, team the victor. Florida playing it long and out of play.
And you know, you didn't really see Florida press as much as I was anticipating, barring Becky Burley's halftime comments. You'd think that in these overtime periods, they would really step up the pressure and not allow Stanford to play out of the back if they are fit enough in this cool night. Perfect soccer weather.
Yeah, is perfect on this night. From Sullivan, laid it out for Turner. Cross attempt blocked out. And here comes Sullivan again, ready for the corner.
And if she can drive this in there, I talked about it before, drive it in, not as lofted, which really suits Marquise, who's pretty strong coming off her line. Drive it, just allow your player to get a little nick on it.
Again, first goal of the season at Navy came off a corner for the Cardinal. How about an overtime? Out of bounds, goal kick. Kaylin Marquise and her Florida team talked about the run of home games here for Stanford. This is the first of 6 straight on the road for Florida. Collins. Carusa trying to dance free. Dispossessed. Monteagudo. Back from Jordan. McGrady to the inside and Sullivan. You're talking about Florida and their schedule. So you've got a road game at number 3, and then another road game against the top 20 UCLA team. And then, oh, by the way, you come home and you play at number 1 Florida State. Those 3 in a row here for Becky Burley's team.
Well, if you want to have a quick learning curve early in your season, you schedule those 3 matches.
Yeah, be able to give out some report card updates after that trio of affairs. McGrady. Sullivan turning. Nice spot. DiBiase thought that Carusa was out wide. Instead, she was in towards the corner of the 18.
And, you know, I think DiBiase is thinking her outside back, Ceci G, should be up in that spot. She's expecting her to be running up that flank. And they haven't all day long. I mean, I keep saying it, but these outside backs need to get into the attack. They need to be the player to recreate the width when those wingers get pinched in.
DiBiase, that one going out for G. Does make a dash to save it. Trying to find Collins on the inside. Pass offline. Give and go for DiBiase and too strong.
And we haven't seen Sam Tran for Stanford up top since the first half, if I'm not mistaken.
Biggich coming back. Monteagudo exiting for Florida. Centering pass. Turner. Shot blocked. Hit a body in front, now to play. Corner coming up. And a handful of deflected shot attempts on the night for the Cardinal.
And again, from outside the 18-yard box. Although that shot had a nice trajectory on it had it not been deflected. But that's what happens when you have bodies in front of you, so you've got to penetrate into that box.
Curving ball, second header. That's wide, and it was last touched by Florida, so another corner coming up.
And you know how how important set pieces are. In this one, Andy Sullivan actually goes near post. She's been going far post all day long, and that's the best look Stanford's had off of a set piece thus far.
Off the body of Lester and out, second corner. Played outside the 18, sent back in. Flick on, low shot, Marquis safe, rebound, score! Stanford's won in overtime. Jordan DiBiase on rebound duty, and that'll do it. Cardinal win it in OT.
Well, of course it would be the way. It all starts from an outside shot, outside the 18, right? Get the deflection, and they have numbers around the ball, finishing it off nicely. And we're going to get a good look at it. I mean, just a reservice, not a great one, but there's havoc created, players bouncing around it. It's that initial save by Marquise. It bounces out. Oh, good, it was an outside shot. It was inside at the top of the 6th, that final finish. And that's a good initial shot taken by DiBiase, and she gets her own rebound and puts an end to this one.
Well, Becky Burley of Florida said, I recruited Jordan DiBiase hard. I wanted her bad out of Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Paul Radcliffe won the battle. She's all Stanford's, and the Cardinal will take it. DiBiase, 4 of her 5 goals last year were game winners. And this one here, second of 2016, decides it tonight. A thriller at Stanford. The Cardinals survive 1-0 over the Gators. Don't forget this one, Jordan DiBiase, her second goal of 2016, keeps number 3 Stanford unbeaten at 3-0. For Allie Wagner and our entire crew, this is Jason App saying, so long, Cardinal. Take it in OT, 1-0. More coming up next on Pac-12 Sports Report.
We now join this program already in progress.
Pickup of 10 on the play.
You see, Ron, how Jim Harbaugh, that game plan, is taking advantage of what Pritchard brings to the table that Ostrander really doesn't. Get the quarterback outside the pocket. One way, an additional way to pressure this USC defense.
Do not adjust your screens. That's the score. The #1 team leading Stanford by a field goal. Well, back to action. USC keeping it on the ground up to the 40-yard line, running the football. You know, when we were talking to offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian, we were talking about